Hi, I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte, and it's that time of year once again.
It is our spring membership drive here at NEPM,
where we ask you to take a few minutes to give back a little bit so that we can continue to bring you the great programming we've been creating at New England Public Media.
Because that's how public radio works. Most of the money we spend to run the station, not to mention the podcasts we're creating, comes from listener contributions. And the money we raise now will sustain us through the months ahead. So consider signing up as a member at nepm.org or calling 800-639-8850 if phones are more your thing.
We're not discriminating just because they aren't our thing.
Seriously, give me a website and I'm there.
Ditto.
Speaking of, that's just one of the many stories we've been able to bring you over the past 300-ish episodes.
So many episodes.
We got to go into the origin of the word ditto with the word nerd.
We learned about zhuzh and polari, which is its own kind of cultural language from England in theater and pirate culture.
We get to talk to our congressman every week. We get to taste wine with some of the best purveyors in the area.
That's the hard work we do for you.
We also get to go out and meet our farmers and find real cool, neat little gems sequestered throughout the 4 counties of Western Mass.
We also got to follow the story of the rebirth of the Iron Horse from the beginning to where we took you there live to the grand opening days. It's just that kind of stuff.
Exactly. But it's also bringing you more and more NEPM content every day. It's jazz. It's a new podcast, The Secrets We Keep. It's in the news roundup show, The Rundown.
Not to confuse you with directions.
And frankly, there's never a better time to contribute than right now. We're asking you to fit giving into your busy schedule to make the time to support NEPM now. Just 2 minutes and you can make a one-time gift, or even better, becoming a sustaining member of NEPM for as little as $5 or $10 a month.
Or more if you want to. Who are we to judge?
Sky's the limit, really.
Because there's so much more we want to do here at the show and at NEPM writ large, but we'll only be able to get them accomplished with your help and your generous donations.
Every contribution makes a difference to NEPM and our ability to inform you of what's happening in Western Mass and around the globe. Giving what you can really does help.
So head over to nepm.org or call 800-639-8850 and give today to ensure that NEPM is always on the radio.
And in your podcast feeds.
Right.
And now, on with the show. And welcome to...
Had a cough right there. A lot of pitching.
The Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, Salman Hamid talks aliens. Not officially, of course, and not with evidence, but he was just invited to a conference on UAPs, so we'll get Mr. Universe's take on the cosmic phenomena and what effect speculation on what little has been, or in most cases hasn't been seen, can have on the greater scientific community.
And we'll get ready to ride off into the sunset with spruced up wheels, courtesy of RAD, the all-volunteer run bike shop nestled into the back of Make It Springfield, with head bike fixer-uppers Rob Thomas and Bobby Olson.
But first, we'll head up the road from the NEPM studios to get in a little extra learning. Almost 2 million Massachusetts residents are over the age of 25 and do not have a college degree. But if you're in that category and are looking for a degree, there's a path forward. It's called Mass Reconnect, a program that can help people earn a degree or certificate for free and put them one step closer to their dream career.
Mass Reconnect was instituted by the Healy administration and is led by the Massachusetts Department of Higher Education and aims to make higher education more affordable and accessible to students across the Commonwealth.
So if you're 25 or older, Mass Reconnect says it will pay for all of your tuition and fees and will provide you with an allowance to cover your books and supplies. All you have to do is apply to your local community college and complete the FAFSA. For anybody who's a parent of a child in college, the FAFSA is not a fun piece of paperwork, but it's necessary.
Yes. Joining us to talk about Mass Reconnect is the 6th president of Springfield Technical Community College, or STIC as we affectionately refer to it, Dr. John B. Cook.
Thank you for joining us, first of all.
Monty, Khalees, pleasure to be with you. This is a real treat for me. Thanks for having me.
Do you have an idea about how many people at STIC took advantage of this program in this first year?
We do, and I'll say up front, what a game changer. Hundreds at STIC alone in this past year. Fall semester, we were up about 14%. This past spring, up another 18%.
Whoa.
Wow.
Now, I
14% in the fall and then another 18% over that 14%?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Year over year. Fall over fall and then spring over spring. And then I use a term with a lot of our stakeholders where I say, and we're threading the needle, because that's actually not pre-pandemic rates. So we are working our way back. It is a massive rebound of sorts because we had a decade pretty much of enrollment declines. This kind of policy and funding of our students has absolutely made a huge difference for us.
Why were the declines, in your opinion?
Post-Great Recession, unemployment rates went way, way down. And not that people were always in the career or in the job they wanted, but you could certainly find work. And so that always is a headwind for community colleges, is when there is work available, people are less inclined to look at a pivot, a career change, things like that. And also, the Northeast is getting older. I think of our students as traditional age. By the way, our average student is 26.
Mm-hmm.
So we are adult focused in our orientation. But, 18 to 20-year-olds, they're about 20% of our students. High schools are graduating fewer students. Again, this is the aging of the Northeast. So those are really our two big headwinds. But when all of a sudden there are many adults walking around with partial transcripts, credits here, credits there, they've stopped in and stopped out, that's some of our terminology. This is that invitation where really the investment is in their time. We use the term free. Certainly it's underwritten by taxpayers, but they still have to find the time and make that commitment to come back. And for hundreds and hundreds, they've come to STCC.
Anecdotally, what are these students saying, or to your professors, to you, when they've made this decision to take advantage of this program?
This got their attention because here's a number for you. Across the 15 community colleges, 40% of the students didn't even need Reconnect money. They were full Pell eligible. Pell, right, is federal money where with certain income thresholds, you're just going to get grant money from the federal government. 40% didn't even need Mass Reconnect. So it just got their attention to realize I need to invest in myself and come back to college.
If that amount of students don't even need the Mass Reconnect money, who really is finding their way to this program and utilizing it?
The sort of wheelhouse for us as adults, average age is 26. That's pretty typical for the 15 community colleges. Again, it is parents, working people who really know whatever that line is. I don't want to be doing it for another 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, right? But because of the way it is funded, it's still lower income, lower socioeconomic families who are making this choice, though. So it is absolutely working in that sense of it.
We're speaking with Dr. John B. Cook, the president of Springfield Technical Community College, STIC, about the Mass Reconnect program, which is in the end of its first year as a program instituted by the Healy-Driscoll administration and is encouraging people 25 and older who don't have a degree to go to community colleges for free. Why 25?
This is a massive change in operations for us to implement something like this. And so we work with policymakers and said, can you give us some runway on here? Average age is 26. 25 is a nice way to sort of invite adults back. Massive changes in how we have to package now hundreds and hundreds of students. So we needed to sort of test proof of concept here that we can sort of manage all of this. Mm-hmm. So that was part of it, is we picked the spot. By the way, also affordability. We have done further studies over this course of the year. And if we went to universal free community college, that's an additional $170 million from the Commonwealth. So significant costs if we went universal. But again, I'll come back to home base for the third piece of this. If you are 18, 19, 20, under that 25 threshold, by and large, as the on-ramp to higher education and with our affordability in hand, it's not going to cost you a lot. It might not cost you anything anyway.
How many community colleges are there in Western Massachusetts, and do you know if they've all seen this level of impact?
4 of us. So, of course, STIC, Holyoke Community College, Greenfield Community College, Berkshire Community College. Wonderful leadership presidents, my colleagues there. Each of those institutions are doing great work and similarly have seen increases and similarly with the same trends. A decade of enrollment declines. This has really changed the outlook for all of us.
There has been some critique of the Mass Reconnect program, mostly before it was officially launched, that this might discourage people from going to a 4-year institution, which I think imbued in that critique may be somewhat disparaging about community colleges in general, which is not something I personally believe in. I think community colleges are an important piece of the academic puzzle.
Agreed.
Have we seen any of those fears come to life?
I think there's some myth busting here that has really helped us over the last year. For starters, if we view education, higher education, as an ecosystem, it gives us a chance to better understand who our students are. These were folks who ultimately we had to encourage off the sidelines. And again, they're adults. By and large, they're not looking for that sort of life-changing experience, live in dorms, things like that. They already have jobs, so they need a different kind of fit. By the way, STIC is 50% online still. So that mode of delivery is a key consideration here. What we also say is in that ecosystem, we have all of those transfer pathways, if you will, Westfield State University, UMass Amherst, Elms, AIC. They will be the beneficiaries. We just need to bide our time a little bit. With a little bit of patience, they will see our gains become their gains. Again, that's just how this system is really going to function. So we do think this will lift all boats.
Do you think that this program would have been as successful if that online component were not available?
This is my 8th year at the college. We've certainly had, with my own stakeholders, with faculty, we've had a certain arc of a conversation around online. And there are certainly residual views and feelings around how effective that is. I can tell you, I certainly had to learn the hard way myself. I came through very traditional, typical, historic approaches and then started teaching online myself and can say there is absolutely, without a doubt, certainly decades into this thing, it's not an experiment anymore. Online teaching done well with certain parameters is incredibly effective. When you have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to work through content instead of show up on campus for this particular window, you've got a better length with student to engage on different things. With that said, we had made as a college some investments in what we call instructional designers, people who work with faculty to really help them not so much convert what they're doing in the classroom, but to reimagine how you might, with these other types of tools, facilitate students through a learning experience. So with that, we were better prepared for what the pandemic then said, there's a whole world out there
Right.
that really invites you to kind of reimagine this. And there is no going back because so many have learned this will work for me, this fits into my life, and I need that kind of choice.
We're speaking with Dr. John B. Cook, the president of Springfield Technical Community College, about the Mass Reconnect program, that it's in the end of its first year where people 25 plus without a degree can go to community colleges for free. Is it really free? Are we going to think that they were going to get this? It pays for
books. Or is it free with purchase? Are there asterisks?
Yeah.
No, and if people could see me, I am smiling because I have members of my board of trustees who are mindful of that. Yes, someone is on the hook for this. It is taxpayers and residents of Massachusetts. Thank you, one and all, for this kind of underwriting. But it is free. There is no asterisks here. Books and supplies. Again, you're a nursing student. You can get scrubs. I don't want no scrub. Paid for. This is an incredible new era, if you will, in Massachusetts for the underwriting of really the workhorse of higher education. I think we have not always touted some of the successes that we have. Take nursing. We know in our area healthcare, they always have openings for registered nurses. Collectively, the 15 community colleges graduate about 1,000 nurses across Commonwealth. And these
a year.
And these are our folks who are from here and they stay here. There is no question. Our students are of our communities. And so it's some of those figures like that this kind of helps underwrite and really continue to invest in.
Nursing is a part of this Mass Reconnect program in particular as well. If you go for a nursing program, do you not have to be 25? Or is it?
Correct.
Yeah, so anybody who wants to be a nurse could go to STIC or to GCC or Berkshire Community College for free through this program to become a nurse.
And my challenge on that, again, you forgive, there's always a little bit of context. Regardless of your age, if you're a nursing student at any community college, it is free. Here is the challenge. It doesn't necessarily allow us to expand our nursing programs. There's a lot of demand for them. We can only take so many. Now, mind you, there's at least 5 factors top of mind as to why that's hard to expand a program. One is there's a big clinical component. Do you have enough time and spaces at the Bay States, Trinity Mercy's, Caring Health Centers? Do you have enough time there? We also do a lot of patient simulation. So there's a lot of staffing component around providing you with those clinical simulated experiences. Also faculty. We have 15 full-time faculty just for nursing alone at STCC, a very, very large nursing program. There's certain cost considerations there. Nevertheless, it's a signature program for. It's really important. It's definitely part of Mass Reconnect.
About how many people are taking advantage of Mass Reconnect for the nursing specifically versus some other courses of study?
It's modest. Again, because of that age piece and because, by the way, you're FAFSA first and may have federal grant aid, that Pell, that you don't even need there. So I want to say it's probably for us where we have between 150 and 200 nurses in a given year. We take larger cohorts in with the 2-year approach there. It may have probably been under 20 students, quite honestly, on the nursing full free piece of that. But overall, again, we're talking hundreds otherwise that fall into the Mass Reconnect funding line.
And they can go for any of the other courses of study that STIC has to offer.
Hey, there just as much demand as there is for healthcare and nursing. There's jobs in HVAC. There's jobs in manufacturing. We've got unique robotics and photonics programs. We could talk about STEM all day long just as much as we talk about healthcare. You want to take calculus? with 12 people at STIC? Or do you want to take calculus in a larger lecture hall, perhaps with teaching assistants?
I don't want to take calculus at all.
Not my strong suit whatsoever.
Sigma functions are still kind of the only thing in calculus that I remember from physics.
We're speaking with the president of STIC, Springfield Technical Community College, Dr. John B. Cook, coming up on the end of the first calendar year of Mass Reconnect. But STIC has stuff that goes on all year round, you were saying, right? So there's no real end for the year at STIC.
We do mark time. The Thursday after Memorial Day weekend, we have commencement. We go down to the Mass Mutual Center. We're typically graduating by that point in time about 800 or 900 students every year. But 65% of our students are part-time. 65%. And so by and large, yes, we have a group of them who have reached that mark. Completion is really, really important for us. But we have a summer semester. We have a wintrum. So we really run year-round. They just chip away. They chip away at these degrees and certificates.
Some of the summer programs are not necessarily just for STIC students, like Take the Micas through STIC, and there are other things for
this
the
public speaking program we've talked about on the show before.
There are other summer programs that are for the greater community that aren't necessarily students as well, and there's like programming that STIC does for the greater community. Can you talk about some of those too?
So I brought a fidget spinner for those who could see it.
I didn't know if we were just bored in the green room.
No, not.
Yep.
And instead I was thinking, oh great, the president of STIC is also neurodivergent like me.
What's amazing about this, so we do have, what comes to mind is we have College for Kids. It's a program that many people knew way back when, and we resuscitated, so to speak. These kind of fidget spinners are made on incredibly expensive, high-functioning CNC lathes and mills. These have been made at times with our past College for Kids programming by youth 11 to 17. Like, this is a high-end fidget spinner, by the way. There's no plastic involved in this whatsoever.
Nice.
This is when you can make things like this, when you're learning how to operate these kinds of pieces of equipment, which run anywhere from $80,000 to $150,000, and when they break, thousands of dollars worth of cost to break them, by the way. You know, there's jobs in this valley in defense and aerospace for you to work on these types of machines with this type of equipment. So it is, College for Kids is a wonderful summer program that we do. Lots of different speakers that we still try to have on campus. We do some of that sort of community programming. We just want to be a hub.
Dr. John B. Cook, president of Springfield Technical Community College, thank you for coming in and talking to us about our neighbors down the street here in Springfield and all the work that you're doing there, and about some of the details on that Mass Reconnect program that seems like year one going pretty good.
My pleasure. We're certainly making the case as part of the budget process this year to see that and other priorities for community colleges land in that budget and be funded for a second year. It's a difference maker for us. Really appreciate the time today. Thank you.
STIC's commencement is one of the later ones in the season, happening on May 30th. Congratulations to all graduates. You did it! And their summer youth programs start up mid-June and go through early August with many free options within those classes. Find more information on STIC's website.
Coming up, the cosmic occurrence formerly known as UFOs, and the astronomy professor who was invited to a government-run conference about them. Mr. Universe tells us the unclassified details of his time with other global interests surrounding UAPs.
But first, we'll strap on our helmets, adjust our seats, and ride over to Make It Springfield to fix up our frames with Rob Thomas and Bobby Olson of RAD, a volunteer-driven bike repair shop.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, homegrown in Hatfield, Massachusetts, and providing energy savings for their customers for over 10 years. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
You guys are miniature car enthusiasts, right? Like Matchbox?
Oh, from Matchbox 20.
Yeah, Rob Thomas. That's your name, right?
I'm the original Rob Thomas. That guy's a little bit younger than me. I'm also
Is Santana here? Are we smooth? Your name is really Rob Thomas, and your name is
Bobby Olson.
Rob and Bobby, and we're at Make It Springfield on Bridge Street. What are you guys up to?
This place is a multi-use space. It's used for all different kinds of maker projects. You can see visual arts, painting, robotics. They do some computer stuff, some music, some poetry. But every Monday afternoon, it turns into a community bike shop. And that's where the Rob and Bobby show starts.
That's where we shine.
And we have other folks.
You call this community bike club what?
RAD. Rad Springfield.
Is it named after the 1980s BMX bike movie called Rad?
It's gonna take a radical miracle to beat this guy.
It's a deep mystery that's been questioned for years since we started our roots in 2016.
Have you seen the movie Rad?
I have not.
You gotta see it.
I think it's German. Isn't it a German word for wheel?
The roots are actually German because our founder, Mr. Alex Weck, is of German descent. It also stands for Ride All Day. I mean, you could come up with things all day long for it.
Is that your shop in the back there?
Yeah, so we'll take a walk back. We have a 3D printer here. You can meet our friend Donald, who does a lot of woodworking here.
I love your shirt.
It says "Will Design for Money" on your shirt.
Yes.
Yeah. What are you working on right there?
I'm working on a desk for myself. It was an IKEA desk I got off of Craigslist, but I'm
Modifying it?
trying to make it a bit nicer. Yeah, here, let me flip it over.
Oh, wow. You're like staining it and all that?
Yeah,
IKEA's supposed to be easy, and you're making it hard.
I'm
on
making it
purpose.
very difficult,
Yeah.
yes.
Whole community of people who do this.
You heard the CEO of IKEA is now the president of Sweden?
No, I haven't.
He's assembling a cabinet. Let's go back to see what Rad's up to. I didn't make up that joke. I just love it.
And so we used to share a very tiny space on the next street over.
Yeah, I visited that previous space before a couple years ago.
So
But
that started in 2016, and in January of 2023, we got into this 4 times as large space, which was awesome. At the small space, every Monday we'd have to drag our stuff out of the closet.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we were getting grease on the floor where they're supposed to be doing art and sewing, and it was a real challenge. Now we have a dedicated bike area, great selection of tools, used parts, new parts. Our general mode of operation is people donate bikes to us, and we fix those up and try to help the folks in the community out that can't afford to go to a more expensive bike place.
How long has Rad Springfield been a part of Make It Springfield?
Well, basically, about 1 year after Make It Springfield started, Rad came along. Laura Masulis was one of the originators of Make It Springfield, which was a 1-month UMass project back in 2016, I believe. Her partner, Alex Weck, was really into bikes and stuff, and he had a pickup truck, so he came up with this concept of a mobile bike shop that was going to be associated with Make It Springfield. He really laid the foundation for everything Rad Springfield's doing now.
So how does it work? Like if you've got a bike that's messed up, can I just roll in when the hours are open and ask for some expertise about how to fix it?
Yes, we'll have people, usually from the local community, roll their bikes in with flat tires or other broken pieces of the bike, and we'll look it over and we'll do our best to fix it and get it rolling again, usually while they wait.
How does it work
Do a lot
financially
of
then?
improvising.
Do you
It's basically you pay what you can. You know, we have prices listed on some of the bikes, very low prices, but we also do a lot of work with Jewish Family Services of Western Mass, who bring us refugees that need bikes to get to work. And for the nonprofits that we work with, the cost is basically zero. You know, we provide not only the bikes, but helmets, locks, lights. So that's a big part of our program, especially since COVID. It's kind of interesting that the program changed a lot since COVID started, where before that there were a lot of teenagers that hung out in here and brought in their BMX bikes and big wheel bikes and tried to fix them up. But when we shut down for a couple of years, our mode changed a little bit into getting more involved with, like I said, refugees and people that adults that need modes of transportation.
We just recently established a relationship with the LGBTQ Asylum Project in Springfield. And on Tuesday, we gave away our first bike to a Guatemalan refugee who came in with their sponsor. And we were able to give him a very nice bike with lights, a helmet, a lock, and they were thrilled.
That is rad.
Rad's all about right there. But we also encourage people to come in and fix their own bikes. I mean, that's the real community shop mode. But typically more people just bring in their bikes and say, can you fix it?
What's like the easiest thing to fix on a bike that most people could do on their own but are too afraid to try?
Well, probably flat tires, or pumping up your tires if they're low on air.
Oh, yeah. We're talking to Rob and Bobby from Rad Springfield, which is in Make It Springfield on Bridge Street, right in downtown. There's a bunch of bikes in the back of this maker space that does all sorts of exciting, creative stuff. What got you into the world of fixing bikes and to this world? Is this like a volunteer gig, or is this a real?
Yeah, we were volunteers.
Yeah.
Myself, I was working for a division of Mass Mutual in the old Bay State West Tower back in 2018, and was walking around at lunch one day and just sort of stumbled on this place where there were a bunch of kids in there working on their bikes, and I was like, what's going on in there? I stopped in, and I was an avid rider, but I didn't know much about repairing bikes. So I was initially sweeping the floor for the first, couple of months, and then got into changing tires. That was in 2018, and now I wouldn't say expert, but I can take apart and fix a lot of especially old school bikes, pretty well by now from everything that I've learned here. So it's really been a rewarding experience.
What about you, Bobby?
Yeah, I retired from a law enforcement career, and I was looking for a way to kind of fill some of my time and also as a way to give back to the community. And I just happened to meet Rob on a group bike ride, and we got to talk, and he told me about RAD and how they were always looking for volunteers. And I said, this sounds exactly what I'm looking for. I'm a longtime bike rider. I love to ride bikes. It was a great match. So I came in to check it out, fell in love with the place, fell in love with the work they were doing, and decided to stay.
What's the hardest thing to fix on a bike?
Well, the new technology, which we're not seeing much of now, hydraulic brakes and electronic shifting, and e-bikes becoming very popular. We have partnered with other bike shops that handle the e-bikes, but those are new to us.
Currently, we're working with Springfield Honors Academy, who has a bike repair class going on, and some of those kids are hopefully going to get into our program over the summer.
What's the deal with those kids that every afternoon ride their bikes and pop wheelies down Main Street in Springfield? You know those kids? Every time I see them, I'm psyched that
Mad bike skills.
Yeah, they really do have mad bike skills, and every time I see them, I'm cheering them on.
They're popping wheelies and things in traffic, and traffic stops for them, which is good. But
they have a right to use the road. I don't know if they have a right to use the road and pop wheelies, but I would say they probably do.
As long as you're going in the right direction.
Exactly.
Yes.
You have
Going down Worthington Street the wrong way, doing a wheelie, not a very good
Yes.
idea.
Yeah. Do the wheelies in the right way.
Yes.
But do they come in? Are they part of this bike scene here too? Or are they probably
used
at
to
home?
be big into this scene again before COVID. A lot of those kids that are bigger and riding the bigger bikes now were little kids back then working in the shop.
When you drive around Springfield and you see usually men riding around on bikes, usually by themselves, chances are they come here to get their bikes fixed.
Who are these lone bikers?
I'll mention one short story with Steve. I call him Brother Steve because he calls everybody brother. But I came down on a Sunday about a month or so ago, and I was only going to be here for 10 or so minutes. So I parked outside Rad Springfield, and I noticed Brother Steve across the street with his bike, just standing there. So I walked over to him and asked him how he was doing and how's the bike. And the bike was fine, only he was missing a pad on his front brake. And I said, well, hold on a second, come with me. So I was able to get into Rad Springfield. We came back. I was able to get a pad, put it on his front brake. And this is out of hours, but I just happened to see him, and I happened to know him.
Yeah.
And a person that a lot of people would walk by, or maybe they'd detour around, but I know him, and I knew I could help him, and gave him his bike that he could safely ride back to where he lives. I got a lot out of that experience. I think he did too.
Some of our customers, they come from area shelters, sober houses, places like that, and the bike is really their life as far as transportation goes.
if people want to donate their old bikes or bikes that they've outgrown, bikes that they no longer use to Rad Springfield, how do they go about doing that?
The best way is to go to radspringfield.org or our Rad Springfield Facebook page, and it's very easy to contact us through either of those. And of course, we drive around looking at the tree belts of all types of neighborhoods, and often you'll see a halfway decent bike just lying there for trash pickup, and that thing's going in my van in about 10 seconds.
The guy's name is Rob Thomas. I'm not letting this go.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you want to mention your thing about PAX?
My kid's bike got stolen, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, it was sad anyway.
As we mentioned, Rad Shop is open for in-person walk-ins on Mondays, and...
That's today!
Sure! They are open from 1 to 5 every Monday, so you can go say, hey, don't push them around and be smooth about it.
Skeptics and believers alike came together to talk about unidentified things, maybe from space. And Mr. Universe got invited to be one of them. Salman Hamid tells us about going to the UAP conference next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
It's time for some top secret kitchen table astronomy at the Amherst kitchen table of Hampshire College astronomer Dr. Salman Hamid, Mr. Universe. I don't know what we can and can't say about this conversation, but you handed me a cryptic business card. You have just come from an event. Tell us what you can tell us.
Which is not much, Monty. No. So I just attended a small workshop. About 25 people were there, organized or funded by the National Science Foundation. And it was about UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Not even aerial anymore. They keep changing this.
Right, it's just anomalous.
It used to be UFOs.
Well, right, so this is formerly known as UFOs. A small group of people were brought in to talk about it. And
why were you chosen to be part of this small group in DC with the biggest names in the world of aliens?
I am genuinely interested in this issue. If the UAPs are alien spacecraft, and I'm very careful in the way I'm phrasing it, if they are actually alien spacecraft, well, that's a really impactful, unbelievably huge thing. But I also teach a class called Aliens, Close Encounters of Multidisciplinary Kind at Hampshire College. I developed it about 10 years ago, and I've taught it many years. I'm also interested in from public engagement perspective, because you and I talk about it on the radio. I have a channel that also in English as well, but also for audience in South Asia. And there is a huge public interest in it. So what I said, I actually checked the boxes of education and public engagement. And I'm an astronomer by training, from which if those UAPs are alien spacecraft, then certainly it actually dramatically alters what you think about astronomy. There was a whole spectrum of beliefs. I'm including mine as well. No, I don't think there is evidence for UAPs, but there were also people who thought that actually there is very strong evidence for that. In fact, the aliens are here and the question is of cover-up, so those were also there. It was a very interesting workshop. The purpose of it wasn't to show that, there wasn't a presentation that would come out from the government, from the hidden vault saying, here is the evidence. No, that was not the purpose of the workshop.
Too bad, because I thought for sure you were going to come back from that workshop like a changed man, saying you won't believe what I saw and I'm not allowed to tell you about it. But that's not how you're acting right now. Unless you are a very good actor.
Thank you very much. No, but that would be the coolest thing if I came back and told you, Monty, I'm sorry, we cannot talk about it on the radio.
Yeah.
That would have
been the coolest thing. That would have been enough evidence for me to believe.
The purpose of the workshop was UAPs. They changed the name in order to address the stigma attached to UFOs. Mm-hmm. The problem is that now everybody, and just like you and I are talking about it, UAPs have also now translated into UFOs. So there is a foundational problem regarding that, because the public interprets these things always as alien spacecrafts, but there is a lot more. The purpose of this workshop was to remove some of the stigma in thinking about and investigating the nature of UAPs. And one of the issues is that many of the military personnel or airline pilots or others, when they come out and say that, hey, I think I saw a UFO, they would sometimes be repercussions against them. They would be sent for psychological assessment and aspects regarding that because of the stigma attached to, really, did you see a flying saucer? Mm-hmm. So there has been an effort that we should not be penalizing people for coming out and saying what they saw.
Right.
I 100% agree with that. There should not be any kind of stigma attached to that. One of the motivations for this workshop, or one of was to how do we talk about UAPs in a manner that can make this topic worth investigating in a serious manner. And hence you had people from across the spectrum, so people who say, hey, we have evidence for it, and I genuinely believe that, versus people who were a bit more skeptical, like me, for example, to sit together and see, okay, what is the nature of UAPs if those are alien spacecrafts or if we have discovered alien bodies? How do we really talk about to the public what is our responsibility? So that was one of the key motivations for this conference. How do we create some sort of common language across this broad spectrum so that we can actually have a conversation rather than just dismiss each other offhand?
But it's a conversation about nothing at this point, because they didn't provide any evidence they didn't provide an alien body or evidence of flying saucers. And you were kind of like the Debbie Downer of the conference in some ways, because people did give presentations where they talked from their place of belief, but with no tangible evidence.
Well, to a certain degree, but I do think that UAPs should be investigated, right? And there were talks on what kind of detectors can be made. There are things that are unexplained. I mean, let me be very clear about it. My problem comes in is the jump from we don't know what something is to it is an alien spacecraft. So let me give you a solid example of a positive thing coming out. One of the things was, why don't we have, and there are some apps, but you can have an app. Just like, for example, you have apps for tree identification or bird identification. You look at it, I mean, you don't say, oh, well, hey, I don't know what this bird is. This must be from another planet. Well, you don't say that. You use this app and this app gives you information and you go like, I see what it is and cool. In the same way, potentially, a lot of the reports for UAPs, for example, turn out to be Venus. The planet Venus or Jupiter, especially Venus because it's lower down in the atmosphere and people think it's moving. Or I was surprised to know that a lot of the times misidentifications are actually birds. Starlink satellites, for example, they go in a row, and if you see something at night and you go like, whoa, this whole row of lights. I saw that going across the sky, which I did see once,
You could thank Elon Musk.
That's right. And so you can have an app, and that will help actually the study of UAPs because you may then end up really looking at, rather than being flooded by this information. So this is what we call signal to noise issue, meaning to say if everybody is seeing everything and then reporting it, then the noise level is too high and your signal, the real signal, is much lower. If people who are reporting can actually remove that aspect, a lot of these things can be explained, then the really interesting anomalous observations can be put there, and then those can be investigated.
It's interesting that you became part of this 25-member group that the National Science Foundation put on in DC. People, believers, and also government officials were part of this, and you still walk away with it virtually unchanged, in your opinion. No one there that you spoke to gave you any sort of wink and a nod about but if you only knew what I know.
Okay, so first of all, it wasn't in DC, it was in Virginia.
Okay, close
just
enough.
as a fact, fact-checking
thing, fact-checking, yeah.
And I should mention, I think I can mention that there were people from a new group from the Department of Defense called All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. It's called ARROW. And they
Sounds like a superhero office.
Right. This is an office within the DoD that is given this job to actually figure out what the UAPs are. And so they are investigating historical claims as well and things like that. And so I had great conversations with those folks.
Despite the fact that the business card that I mentioned at the beginning doesn't even have the person's name on it. No names as part of ARROW.
No, but their main thing was, oftentimes people think, oh, this is the big government people, and they are just skeptical to start with, or they are hiding stuff. Their goal to be there was actually, no, they are open. Anything that is out there, come in and tell us. And they have asked, for example, David Grush, who testified at Congress last year, from what I found out, that they have asked him to come in and talk to ARROW because they are looking for any kind of, if you have experiences, if you have evidence, go and talk to them. And apparently David Grush has so far said no. I actually don't think I came unchanged. I did change. One of the places where I found the barrier is, and that's the exact word that we were using at the conference also, how do we break the barriers involving various groups, how they are looking at it. To me, the big barrier is how you look at evidence. And so a lot of people look at interview-based stuff, qualitative stuff, and I think that's wonderful because I myself have been doing qualitative stuff, and I love qualitative work because you get a lot of information about it. So it is true that people believe that they were abducted by aliens, or people believe that they have seen a UAP as an alien spacecraft. That experience is true. So if you're going to say, do we have evidence that people have experienced alien abductions or alien visitations? The answer is yes. But then there is a separate question that comes in. Okay, but do we have evidence that aliens have visited us? For that, you require a different type of evidence. Abduction experiences are real. Those are life-changing. People, in fact, even have PTSD. They actually show signs of trauma. But we also know that those can be explained, potentially, by things that happen physiologically. And those physiological things you explain through the cultural frame that you have. So within the 20th century and 21st century, the US, and mostly US and Europe, developed countries, you explain those through the lens of alien visitations, In the medieval times, it was through succubi and incubi.
Like demons.
Like demons. And in Muslim countries, it's through jinns. I'm not trying to minimize the experiences because the experiences are absolutely true. But if you're asking the question that, were those experiences because of an external factor? That's a different question that you are asking. And what happens is that people who are more on the physical sciences side, and I'm like, from skeptical side, they dismiss the claims of experiences. They say, oh, they're just making this up. No, actually, they have real experiences. And my bigger problem, in some sense, is that people who believe in the experiential part, they don't value the skepticism that is required for a physical evidence for that. To me, it looks like an issue really about science and religion, because people believe that they have evidence of God. A lot of it is based upon experiential stuff. But from the science part, you go like, well, this is an unanswerable question. This is not what it is. That doesn't change anybody's views in terms of somebody who had a personal experience of God. But to me, going to the workshop clarified a bit more, because we were talking across the spectrum and it was getting clearer in terms of where the lines of tension are and where the barriers are in terms of communicating about that. And I think that was very valuable. We have real serious differences, but that doesn't mean that I think you are not thinking clearly.
Maybe that conference will trickle to Washington, D.C., and we can sit down with people across the political spectrum to have more of these rational conversations.
Now that is more unbelievable than the flying saucers.
But I for sure wish it wasn't.
I know. Thanks again to Mr. Universe, Hampshire College's astronomer, Dr. Salman Hamid, who joins us every Monday. Tomorrow on the Fabulous 413, we're taking you out to see some quote-unquote ladies who are part of a great cow story. We're also taking you to see the cows that's growing even better with the latest generation of sisters in charge when we head to Maple Line Farm in Hadley.
I mean, I was using ladies to refer to the cows, but that's...
And, I mean, yes.
I forgot entirely that there was that whole other thing.
Yes.
Anyway,
Sisters are in charge there, though, and that's pretty cool.
We'll also head to the Northern Berkshires and talk about the ecosystems of colleges with MCLA President James Berg, as the institution has offered for the second time to receive students from another college that is shuttering its doors.
Thank you to the tireless, fabulous 413 tech team. I'm Monty Belmonte.
And I'm Khalees Smith. We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.